Okay, moving on to the tech corner now, and let the AI games begin. Microsoft unveils a new version of its search engine Bing, hitting back on Google's newly introduced chatbot Bard. So yes, the big tech race begins today and all that jazz, but while no giant wants to be left behind, is it humanity, as in us, that is being thrown under the AI bus? Senior reporter for the Dow Jones, John Schwartz, joining us now from Belmont, California. Hello, Josh. Great to have you on again. So Microsoft versus Google sounds like the early 2000s making a comeback, right? So clear the clutter for us. What it is all about for us users, not for them. We will get to them in a minute.
Well, they want to convince us that artificial intelligence is the next great thing that's going to solve all our problems and probably create as many as well. But it's going to be the thing that makes companies more efficient, that makes us smarter, that's just going to make everything faster and cleaner because we're going to be using robots instead of human beings. So it's like another kind of a wave of, if you've heard about the metaverse, now you're hearing as much about AI, just as you heard a lot about Web3. So there's always a buzz phrase, there's always a word or a catchphrase that they use, companies are using and jumping on the bandwagon. So you see these two companies today and yesterday making announcements about their respective chatbots.
But you know, both Microsoft and Google have been investing in AI R&D for years now. It's not new, as you said, but so far they've been hesitated to release it to the public out of an apparent caution, I would say, moral obligation, all those noble notions. But once ChatGPT entered the scene, caution was forgotten. So obviously, no one wants to be left behind.
You know what I think they saw is I think they saw the reaction of the stocks to AI, because remember, right now the tech is in the midst of a massive sell-off. So in other words, all these companies that we've been talking about are laying off tens of thousands of employees. They're losing hundreds of billions of dollars in market value. So they need to do something to address a decline in advertising, which hits Google as well as Microsoft, especially Meta. So what they're doing is they're pivoting to the next great revenue source, and they see that opportunity here. And maybe the timing was right after several years of fake promises or false promises. And I think you'll see the same thing happen in a cycle with metaverse in a few years from now when this perhaps peters off or levels off. So right now it's basically a survival tactic or a way to inflate your revenue with the advertising market down and with tech going through this tough patch.
Yeah, survival, economic survival, I get it, but are we as society the grain offering here, if you will, the sacrifice, or maybe I'm being the classic boomer, you know, terrified of any change. Point being that those hesitations were intact for a reason, and all of a sudden going poof.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, in fairness to the companies, this is a surprise that I'm defending them, but in fairness to them, they've been talking about this for years. So perhaps, you know, given the reception to ChatGPT, given the reaction to that, and maybe perhaps they're confident enough, because I think in a sense the companies right now, the tech companies, especially big tech companies, they cannot take any chances and set off the regulatory alarms, because right now they're under siege. This goes back to last night's Biden speech. He basically says we need to pass antitrust legislation. What he didn't say is that the Department of Justice is going after Google over its search. It is looking at its advertising tech side. Microsoft is okay for now, but FTC is going after Meta. So there is this big push. So they have to be a little bit careful about what they're pushing up. But yes, I understand what you're saying. There's a lot of hesitancy and kind of distrust among consumers towards bots, especially when bots have the ability now to be almost indistinguishable from human beings.
So, Mr. Schwartz, before we let you go briefly, if you can, back to concrete terms, glass half full, glass half empty, the top pro, the top con. More fake news, I assume, but also easier to write papers. What's yours?
Yeah. I think there was a paper that was submitted. It was a test, and it was accepted, and it got a good grade at, I think, a high-end academic institution, and it was written by a bot. So, you know, there's going to be that on the academic side, you're going to maybe eliminate jobs. I mean, bots will be able to do
the job of an interviewer, maybe writing better questions on ChatGPT. We already tested it.
Learning stories, sports stories. I mean, every industry is susceptible. And
John Schwartz, unfortunately, senior reporter for the Dow Jones is out, and we have. Thank you so very much for this, and we'll be speaking to you in the near future. I am positive. Thank you, John Schwartz.